The event planning industry in the United States generates over $1 trillion a year. That's weddings, that's corporate galas, that's nonprofit events. And someone, maybe you, has to plan all of them. So what does this mean for you and I? It means there is a ton of opportunity on the table. And if you've ever been to an event and thought, yeah, I could do something like this, then this video is your roadmap to becoming a successful event planner, especially one that gets actually paid. Hey, I'm Sean, the founder of Ripluo, which I built specifically for event planning and for event planners running a business. But more than that, I'm an event planner myself, and I've held many different roles. I've been a DJ, an event host, I've been on the production side, and throughout my career, I've helped plan over 650, 700 events for over 250,000 attendees across 82 different cities for clients like the Chick-fil-A, NFL, and many different others. So when I tell you there is a path that you can follow to become a full-time or part-time paid event planner within the next 6 months to 3 years, I'm not just making this up. I have lived it and walked it. Now, let me premise this, is that to become a professional event planner and to get paid for it does not necessarily mean you always have to run your own business. That is definitely something you can do, but you can start to get paid, create a name for yourself, and then get a full-time job working for a different company or for a church or for some other organization where you get paid to plan events for that organization. Now let's go ahead and start with step number 1. Step number 1 is to pick your lane. Now I started to rattle off at the start of this video that there are 5 different event types. I started to say there's wedding and there's corporate. I mentioned a church earlier, so there's religious organizations. Well, we can take all of these different events and we can group them into 5 or more different buckets. Here's the 5 that I've written down. Number 1 is weddings. You can become an event planner and you can stick to a niche, or you can stick to a type of event as an event planner, which would be a wedding. Weddings are high emotion, they're high paying depending upon the client, but they're also a consistent source of business because there's always someone new who wants to get married. The next bucket would be corporate events. Corporate events are going to be things like quarterly meetings or sales kickoffs or retreats. You're going to have product launches and grand openings. There's all kinds of corporate events. Some of my favorite, because unlike a wedding, where at a wedding you have to get this one thing right at this one moment and you never get a second chance, with corporate, there's a good chance that they're going to do the same event year in and year out, or sometimes the same event multiple times a year if it's a booming business and they're doing multiple product launches or multiple grand openings and things like that. The third bucket of event planning was going to be nonprofit events. These nonprofit events are going to be relationship rich, meaning that they are there to have a good time, network with each other, and donate to a certain cause. And nonprofit events, because nonprofits a lot of times have corporate sponsors, can sometimes be a feeder into a corporate event. Then you have social events and milestone events. These would be birthdays and showers. Sometimes people classify these as more of a party planner, but they are still an event. It's still a gathering of people in a moment of time. And so you can still 100% call yourself an event planner. It's just one of those buckets. And finally, the 5th type would be a niche within a niche. And that would simply be labeling yourself an event planner, but you're a day of coordinator. This would be someone who shows up and executes someone else's plan, or you show up and you support another group based upon what you're actually doing. So by saying I'm an event planner, specifically a day of coordinator, you're not saying, hey, I'm going to spend the next 3 months with you planning this thing out, but you are saying I'm going to show up and make your life easier because you've got a plan and you need someone to help you execute it. So you're probably asking yourself, well, Sean, that's great hearing all these different things that I could do. What should I do? Well, here's some questions that you can ask yourself in order to narrow it down, to find your niche that you would like to dig deeper into. Number 1 is, what events have you attended or helped with and that you've actually enjoyed doing? Now, this is going to allow you to then speak to someone with confidence saying, yes, I was at this event and here's what I did, or I was at this event and here's how it went. And this allows you to reflect and say, yeah, I was at this wedding and I really loved the moment when the lights went on and the music were on and the doors opened and the bride came down the aisleway. I loved being a part of helping that. Or if it's more on the corporate side, you can say, yes, we had a company holiday party and I loved helping to source the theme and the different vendors and make sure things were running on time. And because you're reflecting on all of that, it gives you stories that then you can tell for when you're actually trying to book your first client. Number two is you can ask who is in your network. Maybe you've got some friends who are getting married, or maybe your boss is looking for some extra support and they're overwhelmed with this thing. So you can jump in and help. Or maybe it's you have a friend who works at a church and you can volunteer your time there for some of the events that they have going on. Your warm market is going to be your first market. A warm market is not something where you have no connection to. That would be a cold market. A warm market is going to be, yeah, I know someone who's already connected to this event, and it's a way that I can already get involved. And then number three, you can ask, well, what pays well in your area? Different parts of the world and different parts of the United States are going to pay well for different types of events. And so some are going to be more higher paid, some are going to be a lot higher paid, and then some are going to be, I need to do more of these, so a higher volume in order to make up for that. So you can reach out to other local planners and other vendors in your area to say, hey, well, what are you charging and what does this pay? And run some calculations and try to figure out, is this going to be worth your time or not? Now, one thing you do not want to do, and I have it down here in the bottom of the screen, is you do not just want to be an event planner and you plan everything. That is completely forgettable, and it's honestly a little bit unrealistic. As people like to say, the riches are in the niches. So if you want to say, I plan nonprofit fundraisers in Jacksonville, that is specific, it qualifies and it disqualifies some certain people, and it gives a specific direction for you want to go. But remember this, there is a marketing, call him a guru, his name is Seth Godin, and he says this, marketing is about going after the business that you want and not the business that you'll accept. So if you say, I plan nonprofit fundraisers in Jacksonville, but they are planning a wedding, then you can still accept the business of planning a wedding, even if that's not your niche. So now that you have some questions and some framework for where you want to go, you're giving yourself direction saying, hey, I want to become a wedding event planner or a corporate event planner or a church event planner, whatever that looks like for you. The next step is then to brand yourself. So here are some easy, low-hanging fruit and some inexpensive ways in order to brand yourself so that you're professional. Number one is to create an Instagram account and a Facebook account under the name that you want to have. My name is Sean Specie, and on my Instagram, you can see that I'm an event host and I'm an entrepreneur. And then you can create a Google business profile. This is 100% free. So you would go to Google and you would create a business profile with your business name. This could be your name with a hyphen and event planner next to it. And this is going to be a way for people to find you on Google Maps and when they're searching in their area. And then also a free way for you to collect reviews and put pictures out there. The last one is going to be to purchase for yourself a domain name. If you go to like GoDaddy.com, or if you go to Squarespace, which is where I use mine, Squarespace allows you to search for a domain. So for a business that I created, where I DJ local events in the Jacksonville area, I purchased a name and it was only $12 a year total for that website domain. And then I connected it using a website builder called Card. Card is really inexpensive. It allows you to build beautiful websites, up to 5 of them, and you can then connect it to your professional domain. So say it's eventplannerjax.com for Jacksonville, so eventplannerjacksonville.com or eventplannerjax.com. You can build your website in Card, you can then connect it, and it's only, now we're at, what is that, 19 plus another 12. We're talking $32 a year in order to look professional. And then you can go to Zoho. Zoho is what I am also using, where Zoho is a way to connect your domain. So if you want your name at eventplannerjax.com or at whatever your URL is going to be, whatever your website's going to be, Zoho is a very inexpensive way to collect your email there. And it gives you a professional look, a professional feel when you're emailing someone. And of course, if you want to, you can always save a little bit of money and just go to Google and create your name planner at gmail.com or something like that. Now, once you have created these things, you want to have a presence online. And so with your website, you don't have to make it anything fancy, anything crazy, but you do want to have at least a couple of things. Number one is you want to have a headline, which is going to be about who you help. And it's not in this document, but you want to take it a step further. You want to say how you're going to make their life better in a very easy to understand way. A pro tip would be to go to Claude or go to ChatGPT and say, give me a headline. I'm writing my copy for my website. This is my event planner business name. Here's what I'm trying to accomplish. And I want you to make it short, sweet, and easy to read at a 5th grade level. Then the next section that you're going to put is going to be a short about section. And even in this about section, you don't really want it to be about you, although it is about you. You want it to be about the person that you are trying to serve. So if I'm writing this from scratch, it would be something like, hi, I'm Sean, and I've helped businesses launch their products and do it in a fun way. So you can see that it's about me, but it's really about how am I serving the type of client that I'm trying to reach. The next section is you want to have a list of your services. So this is a list of things that you offer, and you can leave off the things that you don't want to offer. So if you don't want to do any photography, don't put photography on there. If you do want to, go ahead and put day of coordination and photography services or something like that. And this is a way for someone, again, marketing is about going after the business that you want. So this is a way for someone to read through it and say, oh, this person, they do this, and they do this. And so then they can click a button, contact you, and you've got already ways that they can imagine you helping them make their life easier. The next one that you want to have is you want to have a contact form. I just mentioned it a second ago. Through Card, you can connect where it will send you an email to your email address. And you just want to make it short, simple, and sweet. Some people will have these like, hey, there's 20 different things you need to fill out before I ever talk to you. I do not recommend that. If you want it to be painless for your customer and really your goal is to get them on the phone as quick as possible, you want it to be, hey, name, email, and what are they contacting you about? You will get a couple of people that will come here and be like, hey, they're not really your ideal client. There's someone who's coming and saying, hey, I want to sell you on my web services. Just delete those. But again, make it painless and not painful for people to get in touch with you. And then finally, through it, while you have an Instagram, while you have a Facebook, 100% be posting. You need to post on each one. Doesn't have to be anything crazy, but you do obviously want to have your Google business profile set up. Here's what I personally recommend. A short blurb. You can use AI to help you write it. Don't make up any fabrications and make sure to cut out the part where it says, sure, here's a short description of your business. Don't copy and paste that part. Make it just the description of your business. But then you also want to have some pictures on there. The pictures need to be smiling faces at events that you have had a touch point with, that you have helped with. And so what you want to do is you want to make sure to focus on, again, who you help, what you do, why you're different. And you can include that in the title, in the description, in these sections on your website, and you want to have that in your Google business profile. Now that brings us to step number 3, because you have a domain, you have probably a name for it. Maybe you're even thinking and using some AI tools or Canva and creating an image for yourself, or a logo, I should say. And so this brings us to the next part, which is setting up your actual business. Now take this with a grain of salt. I am not a tax consultant, and this is not financial advice, nor is it legal advice. But here's some of the things that I have found that are helpful for when I'm actually running these events. Number 1 is you need to protect yourself in some small ways. You can 100% if you want to set up an LLC. This is what's recommended online, which is why I put it on the screen. You can still operate as a sole proprietorship if you are going to be doing something a little bit more on the risky side of event planning or anywhere really in the event business. If it's catering and things like that, you probably should consider an LLC because that protects you if you're operating under the LLC. Whereas if you're just getting started, you can start to plan events. If you're not doing anything crazy, you're not organizing a Moto X race where there's fireworks and they're jumping through rings of fire and things like that, you can start as a sole proprietor, which basically means it's just in your personal name and they're writing checks to, for me, it would be to Sean Specie instead of to my business name. Now, one of the things that I do recommend is that when you get into the event industry, I personally use a system called Thimble. And what that is, it allows me to get liability insurance on the day that I need it for the times that I need it. And I'm not paying a super huge premium for this year-round and year-long set of insurance because, again, you're getting started. You're probably on a tighter budget, just like I have been in the past. And so what Thimble does and what there are certain insurance companies that you can buy event day insurance. And so you put in like, hey, here's your name, here's what you're going to be doing, and here's the date and time that you need it. And it gives it, it's like under $20 a lot of the times that you're paying for, $1 million insurance policy for this event that you're running. Because again, you're not doing anything crazy, anything ridiculous. At least don't lie about that when you do it. And so liability insurance is a great way to start and to protect yourself. But again, don't kill yourself by having this complicated year-round policy when you haven't even booked your first client yet. Another way that I definitely recommend protecting yourself is to put together, again, use ChatGPT or Claude or look for templates and things online, but put together a basic contract. Doesn't have to be anything crazy, but you want to have some big ones on there like, hey, here's the date and the time. Here's the services that are promised. Sometimes you need to put in, here's the services that are not promised. And then you need to have, what are your payment terms? And when is that money due? What I've seen typically in the event industry and what I charge for the DJ services that I run still is I'll do a 50% deposit basically at the time of signing the contract. And then I'll also do the other 50%. So the other half of the payment is due within 1 to 2 weeks of the actual event date before the event date, just so that we're not, especially with like weddings and things, if a couple goes on their honeymoon afterwards, you want to make sure that you get paid on the front end because otherwise it could be a couple of weeks before you get paid on the back end. And then something that is a pretty common practice for not only protecting yourself for taxes, but just to make sure that things are a little bit smoother is if you can, and if you have the funds to be able to do this, or if not, you can find a bank that offers a very low amount within your new open account, but have a separate bank account. This separate bank account means that you can pay all of your event expenses out of it so that insurance, the $19 a year for the website, the $12 a year for the domain, things like that, you can pay out of that separate bank account. And when you get paid, you get deposited in. So it's a very easy accounting way to say, here's how much money I made, here's what my expenses were. And that is a great way for you to get started on your taxes. Again, this is not financial advice. I'm not a tax accountant. If it gets more complicated than that, I highly recommend seeing a CPA or using one of those really efficient softwares and things like that. But when you're also setting up your business, beyond protecting yourself, you want to look professional, but you also want to be professional. And so here's what I recommend. I recommend picking one tool to keep track of your event clients, your event leads. So those are two different things. A lead is when you have someone who says, hey, I'm interested in hiring you. So you're talking to them, but you haven't actually booked it yet. So this would be a CRM system. In the past, I've used HubSpot as a great one, very common. There's another one called Honeybook, again, very common. Dubsado, very common in the events industry. But what those don't offer is they do not offer event planning tools. And so having one tool that is not using like Word documents for X and then spreadsheets for Y, and then using something like Dubsado, HubSpot, or Honeybook or something for your CRM, having all of those separated just makes your life difficult. Plus, you've got to have multiple logins. You've got to have one thing. And that is why this whole conversation right here is why I created Ripluo. Ripluo allows you to keep track of your leads. You can create a form, embed it on your website. Someone contacts you, it automatically gets logged in Ripluo so you can see what did you communicate to them, what have they communicated to you, and then you can convert that into an opportunity. And then an opportunity is going to be like, hey, I'm actually talking to this person. It's not just that they reached out. This is legit. I've had a phone call with them. You can log the phone call in there. And then you can convert it into an invoice and you can have a contract system. And from there, you can click a button and you can attach a contract to it and send it through there for e-signature, as well as then you can get paid. And then with a click of a button, you've got all this information in order to get them to the part where they're signing the contract. And what you can do is then you can convert it into an event, which the event planning side of Ripluo has over 22 different tools, including checklists and schedules. And it's even got an AI assistant that allows you to help start the process by saying, hey, help me build a 1-day agenda for a 5K for a nonprofit. And it will do that for you. It'll create a budget for you. It'll create a set of checklists for you. So this is all within Ripluo. And this is why I recommend picking one tool, because it's one place to log in, one place to manage your clients, one place to manage your contracts and all your contacts, and then one place to manage all of your events, all within one login and one system. And so then after you have your one tool where you're going to collect all the contact information and start to plan the events, how do you actually get your foot in the door for the niche, for the type of event planning that you want to have? And that is by building your experience for free. So as you remember earlier, I talked about warm leads or people that you already know. So you can talk to friends, you can talk to family, you can talk to coworkers and say, hey, here's what I'm trying to do. Can I do this for you for free? Can I help you plan your baby shower for free? Can I help you plan your engagement party or your wedding for free? Can I help you by donating my time to this nonprofit? Maybe you are really into helping foster families. And so you find a nonprofit that helps support foster families and you say, hey, can I volunteer with your team in order to put on your gala or to put on your fundraising 5K or the golf tournament? Things like that. And so nonprofits and social events, and even at work, if you already work for the company and you really have an interest in getting to the event planning side, maybe talk to the marketing team or talk to the HR team. Those teams are regularly planning events, either for internal or for, which would be for fellow employees, or it would be planning events to get new business. And so you can volunteer your time. Maybe it's on a Saturday or extra, you make up your work elsewhere. Tell your boss first, don't get fired. Please don't do that. But you want to volunteer your time in some way so that you now, again, you're going to see what you like about this, what you don't like about this, what works when you do this type of event, what doesn't work when you do this type of event. And then if you do something for free, one awesome way to get new business is to negotiate on the front end, especially if you're saying, hey, to a nonprofit or hey, to a friend or family member saying, hey, I'm going to do this for you for free, but can we just have an agreement? If I do a good job, will you write a review afterwards? So then you've got your Google business profile up after the event opens. Everyone's happy. People have a good time. So you say, hey, you send them the link to your Google business profile. They write you a review. Now you've got a 5-star review. Then you can screenshot that and you can share it on your Instagram or on your Facebook or both. And so it's a really great way when you're offering things for free to negotiate on the front end. Hey, if I do a good job, would you be willing to do this for me? Another great way to start to build your business is if you donate your time, then what you want to do is you want to negotiate the fact that they're going to refer you to other people or share your contact information with other people. So if a nonprofit is hosting a 5K, a lot of times they'll have 5, 10, maybe 20 different corporate sponsors. So you can negotiate on the front end. I've done this before and say, hey, I would love to do this for you for free. I saw that you've got these groups that are listed there. If I do a good job, would you just mind making an email introduction and saying, hey, this is the person that helped me plan this event and they're looking for new opportunities. I highly recommend them. That's a great way to get new business. And then finally, if you're doing something for a nonprofit like that 5K, for example, you can also negotiate on the front end that you get listed as a sponsor for the event. And here's the services that you're offering and things like that. Now, a couple more things to take note of if you are going to start offering to do events for free beyond negotiating referrals is number one, you want to make sure to take pictures and videos. And if someone is going to have a professional photographer or a professional videographer there, then you want to go ahead and ask that on the front end and say, hey, I'll be willing to do this for free. Can I get the photos or can I get the video afterwards so I can put together for my own marketing purposes? Number two is you really want to put your best foot forward. You want to do a great job so that they want to hire you back. Because a lot of times, what I have found is I'll do one event for this nonprofit for free, but they will also call me back for other events and they'll pay me for these other ones. Number three, I already talked about this, but you want to ask for a written review, but you also want to be quick about it. So, hey, the event happened and there's the review the next day, or the event happened on a Saturday, Sunday, kind of a day of rest. Everyone's resetting for the week. Monday morning, first thing, send off an email saying, hey, it was a joy being with you on Saturday. Would you mind writing that review that we talked about? Ask for referrals, but when you ask for referrals, be specific about it. Don't say, hey, can you introduce me to 5 people? You can say, hey, I noticed that this company is there. I think that company would be a great client. Who do you know there? They say their name. Oh, great. Could you please introduce me to Susan? And then the answer is yes. We go. And then finally, this is some of the secret sauce. I've never heard of another person recommend this. This is something that I started doing a number of years ago. And whenever I do an event for free, what I'll always do afterwards is I'll always send an invoice that shows, hey, here is the full list of services that I offer that I did for this event. Here's how much it costs full price. And then I add the discount at the bottom so it displays my value. So an example is right here on the side. If you charge $2,500 for event coordination services for this one thing, you offer them a new client discount of negative $2,500, comes out to a total of 0. And so it just displays the value so that the next time they come back, they already have an idea, especially if you say, hey, when I do this event, I would love to do this first one for you for free. I can't promise that I can do it again next year for free, but here's what I'm offering. I'm going to do it for you for free this time. I'll send you my invoice. It'll be discounted down to 0. And would you be willing to introduce me to these 2 companies that I saw that are listed as sponsors on your website? Why wouldn't they, right? They're getting your services for free. You do a great job. Then they're probably willing to write a review and you can take a picture. One great thing for referral or for reviews is when you're standing there, if they're just raving and paying you compliments, hey, I loved it when you did this. It was so helpful when you did Y. Here's what you do. You pull out your phone and you say, hey, thank you so much for saying that. You know what would mean the world to me? Can I just record you saying that real quick? You're at the event. There's people in the background. There's decorations in the background. That is a great way to build up your Google business profile. And then you can also put it on your Facebook and on your Instagram. Now you've built up your business. You're collecting reviews. You're doing some things for free. Step number 5, which is really kind of adjacent to, might be more like step 4.5, but it's step number 5 is if you want to work in a specific niche within it, and maybe you're having a hard time of getting into it, or maybe you just don't know anyone in that niche. You really want to work in corporate events and you really don't know someone that's doing that. What you can do is you can work in adjacent event businesses. So if you want to be an event planner, work for a catering company that does a lot of business events, or shadow a photographer, or work for a rental company where they just need hourly employees to come up and set up chairs. This is going to be a great way for you to get your foot in the door, meet some people, and see things from a different perspective. And then what I've found is because I've done event DJ, I've done event host, I've been an event planner, I've been in event production. Because I've done all of these different things, it's really given me a perspective to speak the language of those vendors. So later, if I'm working an event rental company, and then later I'm an event planner or a day of coordinator, and I'm communicating with that rental company, I speak their language. I know what they're trying to do. I know the type of people that they're hiring. So I know how to better communicate in order to make my events in the future better. And so if you get a job with one of these, this is a way of being adjacent to it without it being 100% for free. And you are getting an education in that event type or in that event niche so that you can see like, hey, yes, I'm doing this. And you get to make some money on the side. And what you're going to learn is you're going to learn how events actually run from that vendor's perspective, what timelines look like. Hey, event rental company needs to arrive at this time, photographer needs to arrive at this time, caterer at this time. Different things like that. What goes wrong? What could go wrong with a rental company? You'll probably see that while working for one. And then you get to see dozens of events yourself. And while you're at that event, you can then be collecting stories and collecting photos and collecting examples of things that you do or things that you see. And it's going to make you a better event planner for someone in the future. What you're actually building, you get some capital, some funds so you can invest in your website and things like that. You get a vendor network from the inside. You get to rub shoulders with other people. Say, oh yeah, I was at this catering company and I really liked this rental company. This one, not so much. I'm going to call this one. So you can make recommendations. It also gets you the foot in the door with different venues so then you can talk to someone and say, oh, actually, I worked an event. You don't have to say what you're doing, but you say, yeah, I was working an event at this venue. And the layout works really well this way. And all of that, of course, is building credibility so that you have firsthand experience, firsthand stories, firsthand knowledge for when you're trying to book your events. And while you're doing so, that brings us to step number 6. While you're doing events for free or you are doing things like working for a rental company, then you can network with event planners. When you meet them, chances are if you're working for somebody else or doing something for free, you're going to meet other people. And you can just say, hey, I would love to buy you lunch or I'd love to buy you coffee sometime. And then you can just ask them some simple question. Be like, hey, what do you love about it? What do you not love about it? Hey, I'm kind of starting out and I'm finding this is a little bit difficult. How did you get started? What is something that you know now that you wish you knew then? What would you do differently if you were starting over completely from scratch? What's the hardest part of running your business? How do you find new clients? What are you doing to push the limits of the events? How do you stay creative and not get burnt out? How do you manage having a family? These are all amazing questions. And then what you can also do while you're rubbing shoulders is, let's say you're working for a photographer and you kind of hit it off and you're like, yeah, this event planner was awesome. I really like the way that they did things. You can then say, maybe it's you offer to shadow them for free or see if they need an extra set of hands. A lot of times an event planner, they're going to hire someone for 15, 20 bucks an hour, maybe a little bit more than that, 25, 30. And so you can make some money on the side and you can learn from them. Make sure to take notes, make sure to be helpful and do a good job. Make sure to show up early, not just on time. If you're on time, you're late. If you're early, you're on time. So show up early, be professional, dress professional, speak professional, act professional. And remember, if you're there to shadow, the shadow is not the main person. The shadow is behind the scenes and following that person around. And then again, take photos and videos, and you can even offer that to the person that you're shadowing and be like, hey, could I follow you around? And I can capture pictures of you setting up things, taking things, and then you can airdrop it or send it to them afterwards. And that's going to allow them to have pictures and videos that they wouldn't have had otherwise. Now, while you're shadowing and while you're assisting, which is again a great way of doing that, one of the things that you can be doing is asking them, hey, who are their favorite vendors? You might already have learned some by doing something for free or by working for one, but there's always more out there. And so depending upon the niche, the type of event that you're going to be in, you can ask around for these different event planners and share and say, hey, who are your favorites? What do you use them for? I've worked with several different event planners in the Jacksonville area, and I have kind of become known for one of them for a certain type of event. And so if someone ever asks them and say, hey, who do you use for this type of event? They're going to be like, oh yeah, I use Sean, right? Everyone has their favorite restaurant. If you go out and you try this new sushi, it just blows your socks away. You're going to go and talk about it with your friends. Well, event planners are the same way. If they use a vendor, they're easy to work with. They're easy to communicate to. They enjoy doing so and they do a good job. Well, then they're going to recommend those people to you and say, and it's just going to help the event industry get better and better and better because then those people are going to get better events. With referrals, one of the things that you can do is if you meet with clients and you say, yeah, I do event planning coordination, and I also know, I see in this plan that you're telling me about, you're going to need a DJ. Oh, I've got the best couple of DJs. Can I connect you with them? You refer them there. What's going to happen? Those DJs are going to express gratitude and probably recommend you in the future. Same thing with the photographers or the florists or the caterers and things like that. So be sure whenever you are doing these referrals that they know when they get there, where did they come from? And a pro move is that if a client comes to you and says, hey, I'm interested in this venue, or I was thinking about this and you've never been there, be sure to go to that venue. But beyond that, if you're just getting started, a great way to get your name out there and to learn who are great planners or who are great photographers or who are great whatever is to go to different venues in your area and just say, hey, I'm starting to get into the event industry. I would love to come and take a tour. The event venue, they love showing off their space and they love getting the exposure. Take some videos and then you can ask them and say, hey, what is it that what makes it easy? What makes you enjoy working with these event planners? Step number 8 is now that you've gotten your name out there, you've got your first couple of clients out there, is what is your pricing model? How are you actually going to get paid? Well, there's really 3 types of ways that you can get paid as an event planner. So your pricing model could be a flat fee where you just say, hey, I'm going to give you X number of hours. Here's X number of dollars. And so it's kind of an hourly rate, but it's more of, hey, here's my event rate. And what I typically do with an event rate is I say, hey, for your event, based on what you're telling me, I'm going to charge $1,400 or $1,800 or whatever that number looks like. Earlier, I gave the number of $2,500 for like coordination service, whatever that looks like. Say, hey, for your event, based on what you tell me, it's going to be X number of dollars. That flat fee gives that person a peace of mind. And then in the contract, you can put, hey, if we go over, I need to get paid more. Or if you want to be generous and if you want to make it easy to work with you, you can say, hey, based on the work that you've told me, it's going to be X number of dollars. And then if you go over, I'm not going to charge you extra. You don't have to worry about that. It's just a flat rate for your event. Number 2 would be an hourly rate. Some people do this. I don't personally love it because I don't love just keeping track of my time. I kind of just get into the event and I'm like, yeah, well, I worked a little bit extra on that, so I just need to increase my price on that next time. But an hourly rate would be, hey, here's my total event rate, or it's going to be X number of dollars per hour. And for this, I think that we're going to go into 7 hours on day of coordination because that's from 3 p.m. until 10 p.m., something along those lines. You can do that. No problem. People are probably expecting that for some types of event planners. People are probably used to that for some types of event planners. So an hourly rate is perfectly acceptable. And then finally, one of the things that I've never actually personally done this, but some event planners, some event planning companies, they say, hey, I charge 10%, 15%, 20% of your total event budget. And so if they have a budget, as you can see on the screen here, of $50,000 for the event, that's for decor, and that's for videography, and that's for the catering, and that's for the venue, all those kinds of things, well, then you're going to charge $5,000 to $10,000 event because the reason why people will do that is when you say, hey, here's the total budget, you can say, okay, this is a larger budget, which means it's probably going to be a larger project, which means it's probably going to be a larger amount of pressure and stress and work on you. And so you're charging, hey, a total amount of the budget. If the budget goes up, usually means that you're spending more, having to find more vendors, search through more vendors, negotiate more contracts, communicate more details, figure out more details. So it's just a way of scaling your budget with the actual work that you need to get done. And for your first 3 paid events, here's just something to think about. Number 1 is in order to get your foot in the door, we already talked about doing it for free, but you want to price yourself. Let me say this the right way. You want to price yourself in a way that communicates value. If you've ever been to Waffle House is a fairly inexpensive menu. Taco Bell is an inexpensive menu. There is nothing wrong with Waffle House and Taco Bell. Sometimes I want to spend $3 on a taco, or sometimes I want to spend $8 on like a whole meal. Maybe it's more like 12 to 15 now from Waffle House, but you get what I'm trying to say. There's nothing wrong with it, but their price communicates the value. Whereas if I go to a nice steak restaurant, I'm going to expect a certain level of service and a certain level of food. So the price that you charge is going to communicate in the client's mind what your level of value is right on the front end. So if you go in super low, they're going to be like, oh, okay, well, maybe they're inexperienced. Or if you go in super low, they're going to be like, maybe they're not that good. So you also might not want to go in super high because you want to win the business. So you can find out what are some competitive rates in your area and find some middle ground. And then, of course, what you can also do is you can say, hey, for this event, I normally charge $1,500. Again, just go into that as a number. My full price is $1,500, but for you, I'm going to do a 50% discount. Okay, cool. Why are you doing that? Well, I would love it if you could write me a review. Yeah, sure. If you do a great job and you're giving me a 50% discount, awesome, let's do that. And then the next time, you might not do a 50% discount. You can call it a first-time client discount, things like that. And then in the events industry, this is again, going back to the contract thing, something I found to be very helpful is make sure you get 50% of your total amount paid up front, unless it's maybe like friends and family or like a nonprofit that you know and love and you really trust them. Sometimes I've been burned one time in my career where we did not get paid up front and we never got paid. It does happen. So an industry standard and just a common practice is to get at least 50% paid up front. And then the other 50%, again, as I mentioned, within a certain amount of days or weeks for your event. Then finally, now that you're starting to get clients, you're saying, hey, I've got people coming in. This person's paying 50%. This person's paying full price. Be sure to continue to grow that pipeline. If you do a good job at an event, people are going to talk about it. They're going to tell your friends about it. I've had this happen multiple times, and there's possibly someone that's there at the event, and they're like, hey, I saw you doing this, and I want my event to go the same way. And so I want to hire you to come and be with me. So make sure to get those reviews right afterwards. Make sure to get photos and videos, post them on social media. Make sure to have those incentives in place. You can even do an incentive program where it's like, hey, if you write me a review, I'll send you a $20 Starbucks gift card. Or if you write me a referral and they book, then I'll give you a $50 Visa gift card. And so these are some ways that you can constantly be posting, constantly be getting reviews, constantly be getting referrals, and get different things like that so that you go back to the beginning and you get new leads that are coming in into your system like Ripluo. You're negotiating what it looks like, what if you're doing it for free or if you're doing it for paid, work your way on up to paid, communicating the value, and things like that. So just to recap, now step number 1 is to pick your lane. Find your niche. You are not an event planner for every single type of event. You do not want to do both weddings and you do not want to do like tens of thousands of people showing up, the same coordinator. It just sometimes the skills translate, but again, you're going after a certain market, a certain niche. So pick that lane. Number 2 is brand yourself. Be online, be present, be relational, be friendly, and send it to your friends and family. Number 3 is set up the business. If you need to, set up the LLC, find that insurance. Again, consult a professional in those areas. Step number 4, you can start by planning for free. Step number 5 is you can work. Again, this is like 4.5, but you can work and get paid in event planning adjacent. So rental companies, photography, things like that. Make sure to network with other planners. Do it through venues. Do it through actually working and doing things for free. Make sure to grab coffee with them, ask them questions, shadow them, assist them, build those vendor relationships. A quick recommendation, if you saw it on the screen earlier, is have a list of 3 different businesses or 3 different individuals in each of a different category. So 3 caterers, 3 DJs, 3 florists, things like that. And then as you work your way up and you're starting to get busier, you of course want to start getting paid. Make sure to send those invoices with the actual prices and get paid your actual deposit amounts. And then finally, you want to grow your pipeline with additional reviews, additional referrals, additional content, and make sure to put all of these people that are reaching out to you into a CRM. And I'm telling you, you're going to love Ripluo because you can track the conversations that you're having, log the emails that you're having, and you can use the event tools. And if you want to see what that looks like to do that, be sure to check out this video.